What if chronic pain isn't actually the problem, but a signal that your body, habits, stress, and even your identity are out of alignment? So many people are cycling through treatments, specialists, and temporary fixes, yet they still don't feel fully healthy, energized, and free to be in their own body. Today's guest has built an entire system around solving that difference. Welcome back to the Practice Pulse, where we explore how innovative businesses are growing, scaling, and creating real impact through systems, strategy, and human centered leadership. I'm your host, Nancy Margrit, founder of Optima Pro AI, where we help businesses implement practical AI systems and operational infrastructure to scale while retaining the human touch. Today, I am joined by Armando Cruz III, co founder of Cruz Country Fitness and Physical Therapy. Thanks for
Okay.
joining us, Armando. Armando is a performance physical therapist, author, speaker, ultramarathoner, Cruz Country Fitness and Physical Therapy, and coach whose work focuses on helping people eliminate chronic pain through a more holistic approach. His work has been featured in publications such as the Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Lifestyle, CBS, and more. Armando, I'm excited to have you on for this conversation because your work really sits at the intersection of health optimization, movement, mindset, and performance. And I think a lot of people are realizing that traditional approaches alone aren't solving this deeper issue. So if you don't mind, for people hearing about your work for the first time, I'd like to hear a little bit about what originally led you into this world of chronic pain, movement, and performance optimization.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share this. So let's actually, you asked like what got me to this point here. Bottleneck. That's the word, a bottleneck. Here's what I mean by that. When people are trying to get healthy, right? My background is I ran in high school, but in college I ran for the university cross country and track. I wasn't the most talented, I wasn't the most skilled, so I had to find ways to keep up with everybody else. So I had to figure out how to optimize my nutrition, my training, my recovery, and invariably, as you're pushing your body, you're going to get injured. And originally, this all stemmed from performance. I wanted to perform at the highest level, and then once my career finished there, I wanted to work with athletes and help them push past that. And what started happening was that I started realizing that even regular people, everyday people, we have the same wants and desires to feel good, to feel energized, and to work at our best. But something seems to kind of get in the way. Life happens to be one of the biggest things there. And what I kept finding was everything that pointed to getting out of pain was treated more like a mechanic. So you go to mechanic and it's like, oh, we got to switch out this part and then you should be good. And that's what I found in the physical therapy space and the rehab space, that we were treating the body like there were parts isolated from the entire body, and they weren't getting results. They weren't getting results. And that was not acceptable for me for multiple reasons. Number one, I hate seeing people in pain. So I wanted a better solution to getting people out of pain. And then number two, from the beginning of when I began helping people, I was always a private paid practitioner. So I
Mhm.
never took any insurance or anything of the sort. And if you don't get results, you don't keep clients. So from a business perspective, the better I did, the better my business did. And so those were the two main focuses as to like, hey, why I went down this path. How do I optimize getting results and keeping it away?
Awesome. I think that was a great explanation, and you really tapped into what I think a lot of us are seeing as a gap in the traditional healthcare or fitness approaches. And you really kind of fill that with something new. So I love that. So a lot of people normalize pain or assume it's just a part of aging or stress or life. What are you seeing right now in terms of how chronic pain is impacting people just beyond the physical symptoms?
Chronic pain, first of all, obviously it hurts, it's uncomfortable, it drains you, but most people see it as an enemy. Like actually, like the pain is there attacking you. When in reality, if we shift the perspective from it being an outside force trying to hurt you or to attack you, and start looking at it as a means of communication, it starts really shifting it because now it becomes a dialogue. And when you can start creating a dialogue with your body, you improve the progress much quicker. If we start looking at pain as like, oh no, this is the way my body communicates with me. If it's pain, it's because there's something I'm not giving the body that the body needs right now. And if I can figure out what that is, if I can speak fluently in that language, then all of a sudden you have a much better relationship. I always share that my job is the equivalent of a marriage counselor that's trying to help a couple understand the communication between each other. My job is for you to understand the communication between you and your body. If I can help you guys communicate better, I've done my job as a body counselor, if you want to call it.
I think that's awesome. And one of the distinctions about this approach that you take is that you don't really separate the physical health from emotional stress, lifestyle habits, or identity. And you really seem to look at it as that interconnected system rather than an isolated system or symptom. I'm sorry. And I think that approach is so unique and really powerful when it comes to figuring out what is the root cause that's causing you to have this chronic pain instead of, like you said, being the mechanic style where we're just going to go in and treat this one isolated area. Because if you don't identify the cause, you can't prevent it from happening again. So I think that's an amazing approach. Can you walk us through what the philosophy is behind your suffering to unstoppable system and how that differs from what most people have maybe already tried before they come to you?
So my wife and I created this system, and what's really cool is that my wife and I my wife and I are like polar opposites. Or not polar opposites. It's that we have polar opposite strengths. So we work well as a team.
Hmm.
I I feel things, see things, big vision things, but I see them in a have you ever seen like a mind map where it's like a bubble and then
Yeah,
there's like all these bubbles
I
that's like a
love mind
spider web?
maps.
I love them, but that's how my mind works.
Huh.
My wife is the opposite. She has to see things step 1, step 2, step 3, step
Hmm.
4, which when you're trying to take somebody and trying to communicate something, that the way she looks at things is much better.
Hmm.
So what we were able to do working together was actually, okay, she's like, all right, tell me what you do. And then we put it together. She's like, okay, wait. The way you're explaining it is all out of order. You would do this for, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that first, but in my mind, it doesn't come out like that, right? So
Right.
she really helped codify the system and walking me through the system that I use to help people. And then together we're like, okay, well, how do we fine tune this and make this more powerful? And what we came up with was there are 6 main components to the suffering to unstoppable approach. And we look at your oxygenation, we look at your hydration, we look at your nutrition, your activation, your relaxation, and your last one, your emotion. So within those 6, if if you have more than one of those off, there's a good chance that you're going to start building up the likelihood of some kind of chronic
Hmm.
disease, some kind of chronic pain. And so our job is to look at each one of those areas and see how we can optimize them, not make them perfect, but like I like to say is how do we take one step closer to perfect, right? Just moving in that direction breeds safety and allows the brain to have more predictability of what's going to happen. When the brain feels safe and the brain and the nervous system feels like it knows what's going to happen, it calms down. It goes out of that emergency mode. And so part of that is bringing more clarity to the brain and the nervous system, as well as the person itself. Like when I'm speaking to a person, I'm not talking to their brain, I'm talking to them. But as we bring more clarity within each one of those 6 areas, all of a sudden, nervous system goes down, the tension of the nervous system, and now it opens doors for us to do the work that we need to do.
Awesome. I love that approach. And I also love that you and your wife really complement one another so that you're able to bring this into terms where the average everyday person can understand what's the process and how are we going to get there. I'm just curious, like, what are some of the parameters you look like? Like oxygenation, are you talking about like your VO2 max score? or activation? How do you measure someone's activation?
Sure.
Um,
So let's dive in.
sure.
I'll just
Yeah.
walk you right through it, right?
Yeah.
To me, it has nothing to hide. It's the more I can share, the better, right? So oxygenation, we're looking at from a hierarchy perspective. Even if you're great at holding your breath, maybe, I mean, a professional, maybe 20 minutes, but most people, if they're lucky, they can hit like 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute, maybe 3 minutes, right? Like you can't be without oxygen for very long, right? Obviously, everybody that we're meeting is breathing. They are getting some level of oxygen, but not all breathing is equal. And so the shape of your breathing, meaning the way you breathe, the sequencing of breathing, whether you're breathing from your belly, from your neck, from your chest, how deep is it? How quick is it? All of that sends a signal to your brain and it works in tandem. So let me give you an example so you understand. If you saw somebody draped over like this and just
Hmm.
breathing very shallow, shoulders dropped, there's a good chance that that shape looks a lot more like somebody who's depressed than really energizing and feeling good. So your physiology, the way your body behaves, is affected by your psychology as well as the way you breathe. So if I change the way I breathe, I change the way I feel. And so we're looking at what are the patterns that the person is doing what are the patterns when they breathe that could be sending signals to the brain. Because if you're breathing from your neck and upper body, what happens is that it almost feels like you're being strangled. Your brain feels like, hey, we're in an emergency state. It's if you've ever been chased or you've ever been running fast, all of a sudden there's a lot more panting. And that's
Hmm.
that's the signal that the brain is getting, even though you may be working at your desk. But you're like this shallow, panty breath coming from the neck. So all of a sudden we're telling the nervous system, hey, we're under duress in some capacity. So now the nervous system goes into emergency mode versus if we can reset that breath, all of a sudden we can teach the body to be, oh no, we're okay. Everything is good. Now the body and the nervous system starts letting go, right? So when
Hmm.
I'm looking at oxygenation, it's like, what is the shape? What is the quality of your breathing, not your performance at, a VO2 max and so forth. Though we can
Okay.
impact that,
Right. So it's more
right?
like your breathing coordination. Like
Correct.
you probably track that with one of those the mask things. I don't know what they're called.
No,
Or
because what you're looking at is your gases expired and so
okay.
forth. It's not that complicated. It's literally I'm observing the way you're breathing
Oh,
and cueing you to reset that, right? We're trying to
awesome.
get you to bring the nervous system to be more calm. I'm helping you to reset that and look at what quality breathing looks like and what emergency or stress breathing looks like.
That's great because you can really identify, here's what this looks like, here's what this feels like, so that that person is able to then make that identification or get that feedback loop at home as well and make those corrections for themselves. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Very
And you were
cool.
talking about activation refers
Yeah,
more to actually, let me just go in order and I just
sure, go for
walk
it.
through it. Right. So
Yeah,
then hydration, that was pretty straightforward.
right.
Most people don't drink enough. So number one, are you hydrating? And then number two, what's the electrolyte balance? So sometimes people overhydrate and we have to make sure that you're balancing that up. Nutrition, the food that you put in is the fuel that you're going to get out. So if you're eating crappy foods that are inflammatory, your body's going to feel it. We're looking at that. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated. We can go in the weeds, but for most people, when you're in that state, it's how do we peel back friction so that action takes place? And when I look at nutrition, it's like, okay, wait, tell me where you're at. And then what's the next step that we can take to improve in that direction? So it's not how do we make it perfect, but how do we take that one domino that's going to knock down more dominoes that will be less friction, with the least amount of friction, right? When we're talking about activation, are you moving your body? Number one, Are you moving it in such a way that energizes, excites you, and leaves you feeling better? Or are you beating your body down? And when you're in this chronic state and you beat your body down, you send it further and further into this emergency state. I'm not saying you can't have hard workouts, but
Mhm.
when your nervous system is really on edge and you're trying to push, you're not doing yourself any favors at that point. So we have to
Right.
see where you're at, where you are at the moment, where your nervous system is, and then what's going to feed that neural loop to actually help healing happen, and not you digging digging your own grave, so to speak.
Right.
Right? Relaxation. It's now we're looking at, are you recovering? How are you sleeping? How are you decompressing during the day? Do you have time off? I've had clients where they come in and it's like, I see them and they're on their phone the entire time. And so, hey, why are you in here? Because I need to. Okay. So, can we leave the phone in the car? If we can leave the phone in the car, you're not worried about it buzzing, beeping all the time. Oh, okay. And all of a sudden they're like, man, I look forward to our sessions because it's the only time I leave the phone anywhere and it's
Mhm.
there. Right. So then that starts another conversation. Okay. Can we create another bubble, another pocket where we can do that intentionally? And again, it's how do we create moments of decompression so that we feed safety to the nervous system and allow the body to start healing? And then the last one is emotion, right? So emotion, the example I like to give is, imagine you're carrying a backpack and each thing that stresses you out, you put in that backpack. Some of them are big. If you got in a car accident, oh yeah, that's why my back hurts because I got in a car accident. But how about the traffic? We put it there. Oh, how about the fact that you didn't sleep well last night? We'll put that in the backpack. What about the fact that you've been dehydrated the last 2 weeks? Put that in there. Oh, what happened that you just heard that your sister got diagnosed with cancer? You put that in there. And all of a sudden, if you were carrying a bag that weighed 100 pounds, it didn't have to be like after a few minutes, your neck will start hurting, your back will start
Mhm.
hurting. Why? Because you're carrying a load. The difference is that most people don't see that backpack that they're carrying with all the little things that keep adding up. And so they never put it down. And so one of the first things that we do in here is I literally paint that picture and we make everybody take off that backpack and we leave it by the door. And I said, if you still want it, when you leave, you can pick it up. But while you're in here, you don't have to carry it. And you see an automatic shift in their whole body the second that they make that realization that they've been carrying this load. And so what we try to do is find ways to take the bag off throughout the day and start eliminating stuff from the bag that we don't have to carry anymore. If it's no longer serving you, why would you still carry it? Right? So those
Mhm.
those are the six areas, and I just give you an
Yeah.
overview of each one so you understand what I mean by each one of those.
No, that was a perfect explanation. I love the analogy of the backpack. That's a very empowering way to look at things because it really puts it back on the individual. Like, you have the power to set this down and step away from this. And identifying those things is also extremely powerful. And I love through this 6-point approach that your work is really combining elements of physical therapy, fitness, recovery, mindset coaching. So I think that's amazing. So you've worked with everyone from entrepreneurs to athletes to parents dealing with chronic pain. Are there common patterns or blind spots that you consistently see that people are missing?
Yes, yes, they're definitely blind spots. It's not here's the thing. We are in such a wonderful time in history that we have access to any information at our fingertips. And so we don't have an information problem. What we have is a filtering problem and a sequencing problem. And so what usually happens is somebody is in pain and they're like, oh, let me YouTube some exercises. Because people think, I always heard that, oh, you just got to strengthen this. And it's interesting because I was writing on this, I was writing a post yesterday on this idea of strengthening. Strengthening is a great idea. But if we don't actually find what's causing what you're feeling, strengthening a dysfunction is not going to help eliminate it. It may decrease some of it. You may get a little bit more activation because most people are sedentary anyways. They're more sedentary than they like, right? So it's going to create more movement. It's going to create more strength. In general, that's going to bring more nutrition, blood flow, oxygen to an area. So that's good. But you're missing, you're a few steps ahead of where you need to be because we haven't addressed the thing that is at its core. It's kind of like, let me give it go back to the car. Let's go back to a car analogy, right? If we find that our tires are wearing out on one side really quick, yeah, you have that front right tire that it's like burnt out on the inside of it. Okay, so what do you need? Oh, you need a new tire. Great, so you put a new tire on. And what happens? A month later, same tire, same problem.
Hmm.
Why? Because yes, you fixed the tire. You now have a new tire, but you haven't fixed the alignment. You haven't fixed what's actually causing that. And the same thing happens with the body. The switching the tire is the same thing as just doing the exercise. If you haven't figured out what's causing it, then you're going to keep having the same thing. I always joke with my clients and I say, there's no such thing as chronic pain. There's just, you haven't found what's actually causing it. So it's chronic because it keeps coming back because you haven't fixed the
Right.
actual problem. And so part of the detective work of the assessment and the work that we do is always peeling back layers, going to the core. Is this at its core? In fact, one of the things that I always share with people is I don't have any machines in my office. I don't have any stim. I don't have any ultrasound. I don't have any of the traditional physical therapy machines. Why? Not because I don't think that they're helpful, but they're all for symptoms. They're primarily all for symptoms. And if we don't address the core, then those machines, while they may be good to help get rid of symptoms or decrease their inflammation, their irritation, we miss the boat. And so one of the reasons why I have it in here is because I don't want to be tempted to use it. Because when I come up with a client and the thing we just did didn't improve their pain in the moment, it's easy to go, I know that that's going to make them feel good at the moment. But it takes them temporarily out of pain and we don't actually address the problem. And so it's a better problem solving tool to keep everybody a little bit uncomfortable. And I know that sounds a little bit off, but when the stakes are high, you're more creative, you need to find the solution because you don't want to see, or I don't want to see my client in pain. My client doesn't want to be in pain. And so together we go back to the drawing board. If something didn't work, we go back to it as, okay, wait, we knocked out all of these possibilities. Let's explore this. And then we go down that path and peel back those layers until we get to what's actually.
No, you've highlighted like one of what I consider to be a key superpower of the human body, and that it's the ultimate feedback loop. Like if you're experiencing pain, you've got to figure out what that deep root cause is, or you're going to continue to have it. And you'll be popping Advil for the rest of eternity, and eventually the Advil is not going to do anything for you. So you've got to dive in and get those root causes taken care of. And I think the one of the really important distinctions that you're making with your system is that most people are compartmentalizing their health, and they're just treating this one symptom individually, like the tires, like which actually happened with my truck. So I like that analogy. But like they're just treating this one symptom instead of really understanding how the stress, the movement, the recovery, the breathing, the emotional load all interact together. So I think that your 6 point system is beautiful. And I didn't realize that you don't have some of those tools in your office. And I think that's great because it really does, like you said, it forces you to jump in and really figure out like what is causing this pain and how can we alleviate that pain. So I think that's awesome. So you and your wife, Christian, have built this business together over many years. What has been kind of harder than expected for the both of you in terms of scaling a high touch wellness and performance business?
It's a great question. I guess when I look at this, we never set out we didn't set out to create a scalable business where we have multiple locations and nothing like that.
Mhm.
It was always about intimate conversations, intimate therapy, and that's it. Like if I'm working with somebody, I don't have 5 or 6 clients at a time. I'm working with that person until we're done. And then I see the next person. So they have my undivided attention. And I think that's number one, more effective. And, I talk to clients all the time, like, oh, I tried physical therapy and, they just move me from machine to machine. And it's like, yeah, that's not what this is. And first of all, there are no machines. So don't worry about
Right.
that. I'm going to be with you 100% of the time. But I think it's important to when we set out to do this, it was more about impact on a personal level. I'm very much aware that the bigger the business, the bigger the impact, right? Like you have more lives that you've touched. So I would say we didn't set out to have this scalable. We set out to have this simple and something that we're proud of, something that we get up and enjoy what we do as opposed to like I don't want to be managing people. And we've had variations where we've had other people and it was great to have them, but it took energy. It there was stress around there. Things had to be complicated. Hey, you got to fill out your timesheets. We got to make sure people are doing what they're saying they're going to do.
Mhm.
That's not what we want. So we went back to simplicity. That's just not the business that we wanted to create. I don't know if that makes sense, but like
Yeah.
the complication was complicating the business and not keeping it simple.
Right, yeah. You wanted to keep things in-house and have more of a human interaction. I completely understand that. Do you have any systems in place currently with your business in terms of helping you with I like to call it like the pajama work, like stuff that you end up doing on your computer late at night or early in the morning. Do you have any kind of systems in place that help you with some of that back end work that isn't necessarily part of the human relationship?
Yes, a few things. Number one, we have a division in roles. So
Mhm.
she's the CFO, so she does all the billing and takes care of all of that. But the systems still have a human touch. So I have some automated things like if let's say you sign up for this program, you will have an automated series of like
Communication.
communication just to make sure it gets put out.
Yeah.
We have automated certain components, or let me not automated. We have systematized
Mhm.
components of creating content. That's probably where the biggest systematization, other than the whole system that we do, comes
Right.
from. It's more like I write and then I write what I'm gonna write for whatever it is, and then I'll use AI to help with ideation on, hey, how do I look at this from a different perspective to enhance and enrich what I've written? And then, okay, well, if I was going to turn this into a video, what perspective would be ideal? So it's not creating the content for me, but it's having that partner to go back and forth that allows me to step out of my own mind and then, kind of go from there. And then, like, hey, how do you format? What are going to be the best hashtags for this? Stuff that I don't want to have
Right.
to deal with. So I do that. And then
Yeah.
I input that into our CRM to be sent out on a weekly basis, to put in on our LinkedIn newsletter, to do different things of the sort. That's really where I spend a lot of my time when
Mhm.
I'm not with clients. It's creating so that there's always stuff out there. There are more touch points that people can gain value from and go from there. And by the way, we also have virtual programs as well. So during the pandemic, we were seeing everybody virtually. And I was seeing them
Mhm.
all around the world. What was very fascinating with that was people were getting just as good and even better results than in person, which sounds crazy to say, but what we found was the second somebody puts their hands on you, there is often an abdication of responsibility. Meaning, the second that the therapist puts his hands on you, you're like, he is going to fix it.
Mhm.
Whereas when it was like this, virtual, I would walk you through the process, but at no point do you ever get that sense because I'm never putting my hands on you because
Mhm.
you're wherever you are, I'm where I am. All of a sudden, now there was a certain level of responsibility and empowerment that you kept along the whole way. And so When I found that out, I try to continue to remind my clients that this is not about me, but this is about you. I'm here to help with communication with your body, show you and guide you on the steps that need to be happening, but you still have to do them in order for your healing to occur.
Mhm.
Does that?
No, that's a yeah, no, that's a very interesting distinction. I've never really thought about that, but it makes sense that when someone has not, like, put their hands on you, you really feel more that the earnest is on you to follow through with all of the things. So it's like there is definitely, I think, this, like, abdication of responsibility when you go into someone's office and it's like, okay, they do tell you to do, okay, you have to do these exercises at home,
Yeah.
right? You gotta do the work, you gotta do the breathing, you gotta do this. But when you're going into the office, you're like, "Well, I did do that one thing this week.
Right.
So, do I really need to do it? I don't know." So, it's nice that you made that distinction because when you have that virtual program, it's all on you. And you also have some of that feedback loop where it's like, "Okay, I tried this exercise and I felt good afterwards. So maybe I'll do it again tomorrow. And maybe I'll, do it the next day or maybe I'll try to do it 3 times a week." So, having that experience where you are empowered to do those things is really vital. I think that's a great way to put that. So I appreciate that distinction. So, for other founders that are in the health and wellness space, what kind of lessons have you learned about building a business that's aligned with your mission, but without burning yourself out in the process?
I think you said something really important there that aligned with your mission. Number
Hmm.
one, do you have a mission? Right? So a vision and a mission are very different things. They coexist together. They should support the mission, should support the vision, and the vision should support the mission. It should go
Right.
back and forth, right? So number one, do you have that big picture that you can align with, right? Because if you don't, like that's your North Star. Every decision should be based off of that. Is this in alignment or am I moving away from it? And one of the things that happens, especially if you're an entrepreneur, is the shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, this is the latest thing. Maybe I should pivot to this. Oh, maybe I should do this. And it's not that doing them is bad, but should you do that now? Pick one thing and do it well for a year before adding another one. Go deep with what you're doing so that it grows roots and it becomes another pillar you can build your business on. If you try to do too many things at one time, the likelihood of you creating stability is very difficult because you don't have enough bandwidth to do everything well and consistently all the time. So choose one thing. You like, when you're going to market, choose one platform, become a
Hmm.
master at it, and you're going to get better results than doing something and everything. And it's not that you can't, but it's not that you can't put any stuff out on the other social media platforms. It's just dedicate yourself to one so that you can master it. You can grow the roots. You can grow the following. You can grow the impact. And yes, you can like copy that on the other ones, but it shouldn't be something that occupies your time. It's
Hmm.
something that can be, so anybody could do it because they're either copying and pasting. And then once you get really good at that, then you can add another arena to play in if you want. From a marketing perspective is a great one. When you're talking about business, just the regular stuff is, I'd say find the things that you are amazing at, double down at those, and then try to find a team that can help you with the things that burn a lot of energy and you don't really like. I mean, you can be good at something and not love it, but if you're good at it, the bandwidth that it takes is much less than if you're not good at it, you don't like it, and you still have to grind through it. So find somebody like you should be looking for people like that to fill spots earlier on in your business life than later on because it will give more bandwidth for you to do the things that amplify your business much quicker.
I think that's beautiful advice because you really do have to figure out what am I good at and then double down on that. Like let's get really good at that, and when you're able to offer that to people, you're only going to increase your impact. And then like you're talking about bringing in individuals that can help you for the areas that maybe you're not passionate about or you're not skilled at, and so they can come in and bring their skill and their passion and their talents in those areas, which is also another beautiful thing about, working with your because you all complement each other so well.
By the way, now that you mentioned that, and I want to bring it up because I know that you work with
Yeah.
AI and you build
Yeah.
tools for that. Like I said, we're in a really fascinating time. I mean,
Mhm.
I was born in 1980. So I had the transition from analog to digital. That was a cool thing.
Mhm.
He saw the birth of the internet. That was a cool thing. And now we're getting to see the birth of AI. I would say it's really in its infancy of where it's going to
Very
be.
much so.
But and this is more your arena, but where before we had to find people to do a lot of this work, there's a lot of repetitive work that you can build AI that will do it good enough that will buy back some of your bandwidth. Even if
Mhm.
it isn't perfect, the momentum that it creates and the space that it helps, like it's going to take much less energy to go back and make a correction. Like this person didn't, just let's just say you're dealing with, oh, this person got charged by mistake. Okay. It's much easier for you to go and, hey, listen, the system had it wrong. I'm so sorry. You fix that problem, but you keep going.
Mhm.
Whereas now you've bought back a lot of that time with a lot of the AI that's emerging now. Again, it's all in its infancy, but there's a lot of amazing things that are happening. Again, this is your arena, but I also want to like highlight that it doesn't have to be an actual person. In some things, I think we're still at a point where it needs to be,
Right.
but there's a lot of stuff that AI can really help fast track and keep a business lean, which reduces complexity. Complexity creates bottlenecks, simplicity creates speed. That's been my experience. There's some people that really love complexity. I find that the simpler something is, the more likely it gets done and the more consistent it gets done.
No, I agree 100%, and my goal with my company is to not take away, jobs from people, right? But to amplify the amount of work that we're able to do or really provide small businesses with the ability to scale where maybe they wouldn't be able to otherwise. Like I have a CPA who uses one of our AI receptionists, and it just allows her administrative person to really focus on what she's good at and not get distracted by the phone calls coming in because now the AI receptionist is able to convey that information to her at a time when she can take care of those issues that are coming in. So, and I love also your take on AI in terms of like, I'm going to come up with the content. I'm just going to use AI to bounce ideas off or refine things in such a way that it really helps my perspective and my knowledge shine for a greater audience. And so, using AI to amplify what we're doing as humans is to me the best way that we can tap into it. So I think that was beautiful the way you said that. It's definitely an accessible tool that you can bring in when you don't have the either the financial bandwidth or maybe you just don't need a whole person to come in and do that or maybe you need to help a person that you've already hired and sometimes they can do
Right.
3 times as much if they're using AI in what they're doing and it's going to amplify with their output. So that's very well put. I appreciate that. So when you think about the future of where do you see the biggest opportunity for either growth? I know you want to keep it small, but impact over the next few years.
I guess the where I would see the bigger impact is now continuing to grow. I would say honestly the YouTube platform. Why? Because I feel like from a so I have 3 kids and
Me too.
okay, well there you go. So I have 3 kids and family is important. I want to be able to communicate and impact people's health and people's lives as much as I can. I know that the more stages I can be on, the more likely that happens. But early on, I realized I don't have the life, nor do I have the desire to be on a plane every day trying to be on different stages. And so for the past 8 years, I've literally made a video every single day to help with my speaking, help with my communication. Some are better than others. Sometimes I have to just put something out there. They don't all see the light and all of them get posted. But what became really apparent was when you can step on more and more and more stages, you refine the message, you improve the message, and you can ideally improve the impact over time. And so over the next 5 years, I'd like to have YouTube be one of the main platforms that I have that people can come and draw inspiration from, draw clarity from, and improve their overall health, their pain, their understanding of pain, their understanding of their body. I would say that's it because I feel like that has lasting, that
Mhm.
has legs that can continue to to improve. All it takes is one video for somebody to share it and grow it, and all of a sudden now, oh, you know, how many people have benefited just from this one thing that is there for you until eternity, I guess, or until
Mhm.
we get wiped out by AI.
Like
One or the
Terminator.
other.
Yeah.
The Terminator, one or the other.
No, I think that's a great distinction though, because like you said, you can fly all over and be on all these different stages, but there's no stage like the one that people hold in their hand and look at every day. You know, there people are on their phones, and that's a stage that you can be on for eternity. Like it's always there, so you never know when it's going to hit somebody, and it's a place that people are constantly looking, especially for advice, or they're looking, like you said, they're googling what's what's an exercise I can do with my lower back pain? So maybe they come across you and they're like, this is a new perspective. And so then they're able to tap into your knowledge through that stage. I think that's a great focus and just a beautiful way that you put that. Before we dive into kind of our couple of future questions, could you give me kind of an example or a snapshot of somebody who's come to you, or maybe it's even a virtual client that you've worked with before, and kind of where they went, like their trajectory from, you know, the suffering all the way into being able to really shine in their entirety?
I'm going to give you two, and they were quite different,
Go for it.
both in length of time and impact. Both of them were back pain. So I
Uh-huh.
had this mom call me. It was a Sunday. It was Sunday night. She called me. She's like, "Hey, I just got your number from so and so. My daughter has been in the emergency room, severe back pain. They've given her muscle relaxants. They give her all these drugs. She's in excruciating pain. I heard you can help." And I said, "Listen, all I have is 6 a.m. the next morning." I said, "I'd be happy to see her tomorrow. If you want to deal with this right now." She's like, "We'll be there." This girl walks in, in tears. She's hunched over. She can't straighten up. And I'm able to get her to the table and have her lie down. I start asking her questions. Lying down, she feels a little bit more or not in pain.
Mhm.
I start asking her questions, like peeling the layers of what's at its core. Because she's active, she's healthy, she's young. We start taking a history. And after like 5 minutes of us talking, I said, "Listen, I want to try something with you, and I want to see how your body responds." So we started addressing just the breathing, just the breathing. Remember that I talked about how your breathing has different shapes.
Mhm.
And we just did a reboot on all her breathing. And after 5 minutes of us, like me teaching her, like rebooting her nervous system, reteaching her how to breathe properly, I asked her, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to try to stand up and see how you feel." This girl stood up, and she stood up straight, and she was shocked because she was expecting pain. And now her eyes are like wide open and she's freaking out. She's like, "How is it?" Like, I didn't touch her. Like,
Yeah.
I literally did not put my hands on her. I just talked her through what she needed to do. Then I said, "Okay, well, touch your toes." And she's like, "I don't want to mess this up." I go, "No, no, try it. We need to see if this is lasting or, it's important to use what causes the pain as a test. To me, that's the ultimate test. Anybody can feel good coming off a massage or anything like that. But if you got it doing deadlifts or you got it jumping, can you jump and still deadlift now? Did
Mhm.
this work or it didn't? So I asked her, hey, bend down, touch your toes. She bends down, touches her toes. She gets back up. She looks at me and she goes, "Are you a witch? This is ridiculous." Like she was moving like if nothing. And this is the same
Yeah.
girl who was in the emergency room the night before. Her mom is freaking out. You're like, what the heck did you do? Like you didn't even touch her. So then now it's like, okay, wait, we're not done. At the very least, we got her to a point where now she can move. Now her nervous system is free to start healing and to start moving the way she was meant to move. Just for fast forward, 4 days later, she played in the state championship volleyball finals. So with no pain, never saw her again. She felt amazing. Okay. So that's one person. The other person that I want to share is my client, Lindsay. She's an attorney. When I first met her, she had to do work in an inversion table. So as an attorney, you're reading a lot of stuff. You're on computer
Mhm.
a lot. So she had to do a lot of work on an inversion table. She couldn't sit up. She had to lie down on a
Hmm.
couch and do some work there. And at the time when it first came in, she wasn't married and she didn't have any kids. She couldn't bend over to put on her shoes and socks without her back spasming up. She could basically get to about her knees before her back would freak out. After 2 weeks, she could now start moving like without any issues.
Mhm.
One of the things that bending was a big thing that would set her back into spasm. At the beginning, with 9 pounds, she could basically get to her knees and then her back would freak out. She can do over 120 pounds now. She basically her body weight.
Mhm.
She can
That's
deadlift
amazing.
all the way down, all the way up
Wow.
with no pain. She went from being like that to taking up golf, being able to ride bike, being able to run a half marathon, be able to deadlift her body weight. Basically, she now has no limitation. Like she doesn't
Yeah.
fear her back. But the craziest one of all of this, because all of that is impressive, but the one that to me got me, which was in that time that I was working with her, and I've been working with her for more than a decade. And it's not because she's been in pain. It's because we open new doors and she's like,
Mhm.
wow, I didn't know I could do that. Can we try for this? So now we stretch the goal. Hey, I want to run a half marathon. Okay, great. So now let's work towards that. But the one that really got me from her was she told me after her second kid, she told me, I never told you this, but I just realized that the other day, which was I always thought that if I had kids, I was going to have to be one of those moms that would have to just look from afar, that I couldn't play with my kids. I couldn't be with my kids on the floor. She goes, last night I was playing with my daughter on the floor and I realized I'm doing what I never thought I would be able to do. Because if I got on the floor before, I wasn't going to get up. She goes, the fact that I could sit on the floor and play with my daughter was mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And I remember when she told me that, I'm like, all right, who's cutting onions here? Because I wasn't expecting that, right? And
Yeah.
that to me matters more than
Well,
deadlifting your
yeah.
body weight or anything like that. Like, because that's a very real thing that if you're a parent, you know how important that is. Like
Mhm.
being part of their lives in their space is a really, really important part,
It is, yeah.
you know?
That's a beautiful story because that is like, running a half marathon is great and being able to lift your body weight is great, but, like, being able to really build a deeper relationship with those that you love, like, there's nothing above that because that's human connection just is what we're here for, I feel like. So being able to amplify that through your work is definitely a beautiful impact, and those are great stories. Thanks for sharing those with us.
My pleasure.
So let's look to the future a little bit. We're going to do two quick questions on the future, and then we'll get the lightning round done and close out. So we're getting close. But the health and wellness industry is evolving rapidly with technology and AI, recovery tools, wearables, personalization, health optimization, all of that. What trends or shifts do you think people should really be paying attention to over the next 3 to 5 years?
Trends to stay away from or trends to be going towards? Which one?
Pick something to pay attention to. So either one. You tell
Okay.
me what's more important.
Okay. Here, I'm going to go kind of counter to
Go
this.
for it. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest disservices that we're doing, and it has to do with wearables.
Mm-hmm.
I love the data. It's just like when I have a client, I always tell people, because people ask me, I said, should I weigh myself? I said, if you can look at the data as data, you can weigh yourself every day if you want. If every time you look at your weight, we now have a story around it, then we can't have that right now, because we need to learn how to separate numbers for what they are, not as a judgment or a story that you need to be telling yourself about why this is this way or one or another. The issue that I'm seeing with wearables is people are, again, abdicating what they're actually feeling to it. And the example I want to give you is Whoop or all those sleep apps.
Mm-hmm.
I ask people all the time, how do you sleep? My app says I sleep good. I said, no, no, no. I don't care what the app says. When you wake up, how do you feel? Do you feel more energized? Do you feel worse? You go, oh, okay, great. Like now they have to start thinking about that, because a lot of times you're being told what you're supposed to think. And I
Mm-hmm.
need you to start thinking and actually feeling what your body feels. That information, once you understand your body, is very helpful, because we can track over time some objective measures that you don't get by just understanding your body.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big disservices is people are like, oh, this will tell me what to do. Oh, my watch tells me that my heart rate is this, or that I burn this amount of calories. You know, you were out here for 45 minutes and they're like, oh yeah, I burned, 1,200 calories. I'm like, you didn't burn 1,200 calories. 100%. You did not. I said, first of all, it's not that accurate. And number two, it's not that accurate because the way they're doing it, they haven't asked you enough information for them to have a more precise formula to find this out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that. It gives you an idea. Oh, hey, I burned more
Mm-hmm.
than I did yesterday. So maybe this type of workout will burn more. But don't take it at face value. Don't think, hey, I burned 1,200 calories. I can go eat 2 Cinnabons now because I earned it, right? That's what I mean, right? And so this is just
Mm-hmm.
understanding the limitations of the wearables, I think, is an important part, and picking up on the connection to what you're actually feeling is a really, it's gonna serve you much better than any wearable at this moment.
I agree. I think it's one of the conversations I had with a previous podcast guest about like, okay, my sleep, like my Garmin watch, I like it's like, it used to be the first thing I would do when I wake up. Okay, how did I sleep? And sometimes I'd be like, that doesn't feel right. But talking about like, it's not only just like being aware that that data is maybe off a little bit, right? But it's also the process of checking in with your body, I think does something different for you physiologically, where it's like, taking a moment to be present with yourself and do a scan of, okay, how do I feel like after I wake up, after I get moving, like how do I feel? How did I rest? So I think having that process really is helpful. So that's a really great way to put it, and I appreciate your perspective on that. And you answered my next question, which was about wearables. So perfect.
Okay.
So we're going to dive right into the lightning round. So this is 4 quick questions, short answers. You can go a little longer if you want to, but this is our lightning round and then we'll close out. So, what is one industry myth that you'd love to eliminate forever?
You have to stretch tight muscles.
Hmm, that's a good one.
I don't know. That's a whole can of worms, but I'm going to leave that cliffhanger for you.
No, I love that. And I know we're in lightning round, but I completely agree. My son plays basketball. He's 13. And I'm like, stop, just stop doing that. We got to you're making it worse. And he's been injured a couple times because of it. But anyway, so I agree with you 100%. I'd love to talk to you more about that at another time. So next question is, what's one habit or mindset that has had the biggest positive impact in your life?
I'm going to give you one rule that I live by.
Okay.
And it has to do with habits, because there are certain habits that I've been doing for years without missing a day. Being in front of doing a video is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Create consistency beats out intensity over the long run. If you're talking about health is something that it's going to be with you're working towards for the rest of your life. So build habits that have longevity. And when you're doing it, start that with the rule that you can do it even on your worst day. Let me give you a quick example. If you're going to say, "Hey, I'm going to run every day for an hour." Okay, but if you get injured, are you going to be able to do that? No. If you have the flu, are you going to be able to do that? No. So how about we start? You haven't done anything. Why don't we start that you have 10 minutes of walking? With the flu, you could walk for 10 minutes. You could walk in place.
Mhm.
If you're injured, you could probably walk with crutches if you needed to,
Yeah.
right? So it gives it accessible. And so what that becomes is the minimal effective dose to check it off, and it maintains momentum that you can build from. I use that to go from 10 minutes a day to going to running my first 100-mile race.
Wow.
Okay? So I'll leave that cliffhanger too.
Just a small difference,
Yeah.
10 minutes to 100 miles. Like, whew. I've
Yeah.
done a few marathons, but a 100-miler sounds like a lot. That's awesome, though. Okay, next question is, what gives you the most hope right now?
People being open, people letting go of the hierarchy of what they believed to be the experts of something. I think COVID really exposed a lot of that. People who were supposed to be the experts, number one, how wrong they were. And number two, really, in a lot of ways, there more and more has come out as far as not just with COVID, but just in general health, that it isn't always in your best interests that's out there. And so I would say that people are being more open to looking at the body more holistically. I'm finding more and more conversations like that. And maybe just my bubble, because when people come to me, they're at least know that this is the world that they're going to come into. But I would say that gives me hope.
Can't hear you. I'm not sure
Can you hear me now or no?
if you can hear me or not.
Can you hear me or no? Hold on.
Okay. Okay. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry.
I
Did
don't
you
know what
hear what I
happened.
said?
Sorry.
Did you hear what I said?
I heard part of it. I heard a
Okay.
little bit about COVID
All
and
right.
what
Let,
if
let
you
me,
don't mind, just you want to just say it over?
I got you. So what I
Okay.
was saying is what gives me hope is that people are more in the past, people were like, oh, the doctor has the final say, the government has the final say, that this has the final say. And what I think people have realized is number one, I need to be responsible for myself, and they don't always have my best interest in mind. So what gives me hope is that people are starting to ask questions about their health and taking ownership of it. That gives me hope.
Beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so last question should be super easy for you. Where can people connect with you and learn more about your work, especially maybe some of your online or virtual stuff?
Sure. I mean, the hub for everything is going to be Cruz, like my last name, CRUZ, country.com. There
Mhm.
you can find virtual programs. You can set up a call with me as well. It doesn't matter where you are. Like I said, I can see you virtually or I can see you in person if you're in Miami, Florida. That's where I'm at, where it's nice and
Awesome.
sunny. It's like 90
Sounds
some
great.
degrees right now. And then I guess YouTube has as
Mhm.
well. I guess the social media that I use right now, more just conversation wise, is Instagram, and it's A Cruz, like my last name, and then the number 3. So A Cruz 3,
Perfect.
and that's pretty much it.
Cool. Okay, we will include that in the show notes. So, Armando, this was an incredible conversation, and I appreciate not only the work that you're doing, but also how intentional you were about your creating your approach and your healing and performance and really a legacy. I think a lot of people listening are going to walk away realizing that health is so much more interconnected than we've been taught, and that real transformation often requires looking at the full picture instead of just chasing isolated fixes or just replacing your tires. You really got to get in and look at what's causing the issue. So, thank you so much for joining me on the Practice Pulse. I really enjoyed our conversation. For any of you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and then share it to someone who you might think will enjoy the episode as well. I appreciate you joining us on the Practice Pulse. And if you'd like to learn more about innovations in the health, wellness, and longevity space and how businesses are growing, make sure that you reach out, and we'd love to connect with you. As always, innovation creates possibility, implementation turns it into growth. We'll see you next time.